Hey there, welcome back to my channel. In this video series, we are exploring the Yamas and Niyamas based on the Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice book by Deborah Adele. If you want more information about this series and kind of what I'm doing here, please go back and check out the intro. We've already covered the first Yama, and in this video, we are jumping into the second Yama, which is Satya, the Sanskrit word for truthfulness. This is one of my favorites. So I'm really excited for all of them because, especially as I was going through and kind of exploring this Yama over the last 2 weeks, I'm a little bit behind on my video shooting just with everything we've had going on regarding civil rights in the world and just the tragedies that we've had over the past few weeks. I've really needed to take time to sit with these yamas as I'm going through them and process them and what have caused me to process them maybe in a little bit of a different way, which is helping me to like grow and learn kind of as I go as well. So it's kind of awesome to be going through them. And I, at such a historic time in the world, and to be able to use this time of self-exploration to be considering human rights and racism and all the things we're faced with at the moment in this world that we're living in. But kind of grinding this down and keeping it to the book, Satya, Truthfulness. So this section, this Yama, opens up with Deborah Adele using this example of the children that are about to meet King Aslan in the C.S. Lewis book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The C.S. Lewis set. There's a full series of books that fall within the Chronicles of Narnia that are amazing. So if you've got kids that are into Harry Potter and they haven't read those, definitely you probably would want to expose them to those books and those stories as well, because they're really fantastic. But the children are about to meet King Aslan, and they come across a man named Mr. Beaver. And Mr. Beaver tells them just about mighty King Aslan, that he is the righter of wrongs, and he drives out winter, and he brings on spring, and he can banish sorrows and make ways right. And that anyone, Mr. Beaver kind of explains that anyone that approaches King Aslan should do so with knees knocking, meaning with a sense of him being sort of the king of all kings, bowing down and doing so in a humbling and worshipful way. So that statement of going forward with knees knocking causes some concern in the children. They're concerned about King Aslan, and they're concerned about their safety. And they are assured by Mr. Beaver that while Aslan isn't safe, he's good and he's just. And that is the root of Satya, truthfulness, Yama. So in this truthfulness, what it's really talking about is it's talking about, are you nice, air quotes, or are you truthful? So I have some highlights as we jump into Satya here. Such a good one. And there is a quote at the beginning of this chapter if you're following along. If not, this should give you enough to kind of keep up and kind of keep track with what I'm doing here. Is my yes coming from a dark corner or from the light of my heart? So what we're doing in truthfulness in Satya is we're exploring, are we nice? Are we nice as a way of not harming another person with our truthfulness? Are we afraid of our truthfulness so much that we're concerned about the way other people will inevitably judge us based on being truthful? Now, I'm not talking about being rude, not the manner of truthfulness. That's not what this Yama is about. It's as black and white as telling the truth and being honest and running the risk of potentially someone else not liking us, or if I'm nice, I put a mask on, and that while I might walk away from a situation with this other person liking me, what is that doing to me? Am I living from a place of nonviolence, which was the last Yama that we just finished up in that video series. So you'll start to see as we're going through how all of these are kind of they go hand in hand. So I'm going to read to you a couple highlights that I made as I went through this section of Satya. Truth has the power to right wrongs and end sorrows. It is fierce in its demands and magnanimous in its offerings. If we don't approach truth with our knees knocking, we haven't really understood the profoundness of this guideline. But truth demands integrity to life and to our own self that is more than not simply telling a lie. So this is a little bit more than a kid putting their hand in the cookie jar and saying, yeah, oh no, I didn't do that. And then there's crumbs all over their face and you know they went for that cookie. This is about our day-to-day, everyday life. Are we telling the truth to other people? And are we just telling the truth about situations that we're into ourselves? That many times nice turns into this mask that we put on, and we will inevitably start to do is step away from our own authenticity, because we have all these different masks that we wear when we're around all these different people in all these different scenarios. When we are real rather than nice, when we choose self-expression over self-indulgence, when we choose growth over the need to belong, and when we choose fluidity over rigidity, we begin to understand the deeper dynamics of truthfulness, and we begin to taste the freedom and goodness of this jewel. And there really is just so much there, that essentially being real comes from a place of our own self-expression. It's who I am. It's who I'm feeling today. And maybe I agree with, maybe it's via conversation. Maybe it has to do with being in conversation with someone, or it's dealing in the daily day-to-day and noticing that you spend the majority of your time wearing a mask, because if you don't have that mask on, then you're not going to be liked. And again, I just want to drive the point home that truthfulness is really not about, it's not about nice. And that doesn't mean that in telling the truth, you need to be rude. You need to be kind. Kind and nice are not the same thing. And that is huge. That's huge. And what was so impactful for me going through this Yama was nice is something I have said for years now. I don't trust nice people. 9 out of 10 of the time, experiences that I've had in my life, people that are nice very rarely are ever really nice. They're usually only nice because they're wearing a mask when they're in front of you, and then when they step away from you, they're someone else. That is the epitome of someone wearing two faces. So please don't misunderstand truthfulness. An everyday scenario, and this is very, very, very simplified, but I'll go with this for now. Easy, simple scenario. You're in a food store and you turn down an aisle. It's a tight aisle and two people are standing on each side of the aisle and they're talking. Well, you need to get by. Like, you got to get your food shopping done. You have an appointment you need to get to. You've got about 20 minutes to get through the store and you really need to move. Pull up. I mean, this is what I do. Excuse me, do you mind if I squeeze by? Sure, great. Okay, great. Get going, get moving, right? Because you got to move. Pardon me, can I get by? I didn't say, yo, Chubbs, could you swing it to the right? I said, excuse me, could I please get by? Now, yes, in a scenario where maybe people are thinking, and sometimes you catch people at the food store, you're not, nobody's around, and then all of a sudden there's 5 people around. there was no ill will by these people stopping and having a conversation in the middle of the aisle, but they are in fact in the middle of the aisle and you need to get by. There's nothing wrong with being truthful and saying, pardon me, do you mind if I get by? Have you ever been that person standing in the aisle and someone comes up behind you and they need to get by and they just stand there? Because I have. And I might notice them or I might not notice them. And in the scenarios where that has happened to me, they seem very annoyed, like waiting for me to turn around and notice that they're standing there so that I can move out of the way. Don't ever assume. Don't ever make assumptions. You know, say something. I'm not a mind reader, and that person's not a mind reader. And maybe she will get annoyed by you saying, excuse me, do you mind if I move by? But does she really have the right to get annoyed? She's standing in the middle of an aisle in the food store. Just say, excuse me, and get moving on your way. It's not that big of a deal. So many people struggle with doing that. And I came to realize that the last time that happened to me when I was out, because I'm always bumping into people and I'm always running my mouth, and this guy came up and was standing behind me. I didn't even know he was there. Didn't hear him pull up, nothing. And I turned around and I went, oh, I'm sorry. And I moved aside. And he was like, as he's pushing his cart by me. And I said, you know, sir, I said, next time you need to get by, all you have to do is say, excuse me. It's pretty simple, right? It's not that big of a deal. If he's going to be annoyed with anyone, he needs to be annoyed with himself. That's the difference between being truthful and him having a genuine concern, probably about what I was going to think of him if he said, excuse me, do you mind if I get by? He just decided to get annoyed that I was taking up space in the aisle. And that brings me to this next section where talk about nice and what happens when we hide behind this cloak of being nice. Nice is an illusion, a cloak hiding lies. It is an imposed image of what one thinks they should be. It is a package of the self in a presentable box, imposed by an outer authority. People who are nice hold truth inside until they reach a breaking point, and then they become dangerously inappropriate. That's what happened to the guy that was standing behind me. He was probably fine and not that annoyed until he was standing behind me for 3 minutes. And it could have been avoided if he just said, excuse me. She goes on to talk about how she knows because she used to be one of those people. And I can say, I know because I used to be one of those people. There are just some days that I like to just stay so small. I like to just stay in my box. And it's easy to turn down an aisle and say, why do you have to stand right there and have a conversation? I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. Get over it. But if you need to move past somebody, just say, excuse me. It's not that hard. And that's a very light, very small example of what it means to be truthful versus to be nice. Very often we'll hear, and I definitely have in my single woman life, I will tell you, I am a single woman, and when I'm dating, which I'm not, and I haven't been for a while, but when I am dating, something that I found interesting just in studying other people, very common that I hear from men. Someone could say one thing about you, what would they say? I'm just a really nice guy. Well, here's what I'll tell you, if I can give you a little piece of advice, fellas. I have found in my experience that the nice guy, nice in air quotes, very rarely ever is. People that directly, the first thing you say when I say, well, tell me about yourself. What do you do? I'm a really nice person. That's not what I asked you. I asked you what you did. Like, what do you do? What do you like to do when you're not working? What do you do when you're at work? What do you enjoy about it? What do you not like about it? Like, truthfulness goes deeper than nice does, because like what we learn here is nice is 100% a mask. It is very rare that a nice guy ever is. And when I hear guys say things like, just can't win. Nice guys always finish last. Nice guys usually always finish last. They usually do. And you want to know why? Because you're probably not truthful with who you are. You probably don't know who you are. So nice is just what you lean on. And there's a difference between someone who's honest and just truthful about who they are, but they're still a really good person. And that's when, when you're trying to connect with someone, that's what you're trying to learn. What is the content of this person's character? Because nice doesn't cut it. Sometimes people are, kind of rude. Okay, this person might need to learn a lesson in this arena, but they're really interesting. Maybe they're not hitting all the points, maybe they're not hitting 3 out of 100 points, but for the most part, this is like a really interesting person and they know who they are and there's texture and there's context to them. So yeah, nice guys usually do finish last because they usually just don't know who they are. You might be a good person that does stuff for your neighbor and that's wonderful, but who are you? And, very oftentimes we will say, well, we know this was a good person. They always would give someone the shirt off their back. And, that's wonderful. But who are you? Great, you're humanitarian. You're good to your neighbors. That's wonderful. You should be. But who are you? And if all you have is nice, it reads as fake. I read it as fake. And I usually don't move on to date number 2. If I got nothing to work with, I got nothing. And when I hear nice, this person doesn't know who they are. And they wear a mask of who other people think that they should be instead of them just being themselves. And I just can't get down with that. That's just not something that's interesting to me at all. And it's just, it's unauthentic. So there's a quote here under being real rather than nice. Carl Jung writes, "A lie would make no sense unless the truth was felt to be dangerous." Carl Jung also asks us, what is so dangerous in the moment about the truth that you are choosing to lie? These are questions that merit our pondering. And usually that's what it always comes down to, is we're lying about something because we directly, when we say, and I am allergic to lying. I don't lie. Did I lie when I was a kid? Sure. But as I've gotten older, I have such a sheer disdain for people that don't tell the truth, and I can smell it from a mile away. When 2 + 2 does not equal 4, it does not equal 4. Just be honest and tell the truth. Brief example. Out wedding dress shopping with a girlfriend of mine that was getting married. This was a couple of years ago. And the girls, the fam, we all got together, we all went out. She was much like myself. She had some extra pounds on. And she was trying on dresses. She was very stuck on a specific style. And a lot of times, I will say, with apparel, I work in the retail industry. And the one thing I will tell you is sometimes the look you're going for is not what flatters you. It's just not for you. It's not for your body type, but it still doesn't mean that you can't get what you're going for. It just means you have to expand your way of thinking and maybe try something else out that you wouldn't think you would need to try. She was very stuck on photos. She was very stuck on this specific style of dress that just bottom line was not flattering. And she was coming out in these dresses. She was stuck on, 6 months from now, I'm going to be 60 pounds lighter, which may or may not happen. And my concern for her was that she was going to pick a dress that she didn't really love today, but she was going to hope that in 6 months it was going to work for her, and it may or it may not. And if it doesn't, she's kind of screwed because now she's going to be getting married and she's stuck with this dress that she hates. So we're all kind of sitting there in the room. We're all like, oh, do you like it? And, you can tell she's not in love. And I said, how about we try on maybe some other styles that you wouldn't necessarily think to go for? Because I was very honest. I said, my concern for you is 6 months from now, what if it's not rocking your bod and you hate it and then you're stuck with this for your wedding day? And she was like, you hate it, you hate the dress. And I said, right now, today, you've owned the fact that you're kind of squeezing yourself into the style and it's not working for you. So why don't we just check out something else? That to me is a very kind, very honest, very truthful, very loving way to let somebody know something like that, especially on a day that's kind of sensitive, especially with someone that's kind of sensitive. You brought me here because you were asking my opinion on things. You want to know what I think. And what I think is that when she tried that dress on, she wasn't seeing stars. She wasn't crying. It wasn't the one. Well, needless to say, she stepped out, tried some other things on, and everyone agreed, and she put that dress on, and it was the one. And, you know, it was a wonderful day. She got her dress, and she was still able to capture the look and the feel and the design aesthetic that she was going for on her wedding day, as opposed to me being nice and telling her it looked good when it really, really didn't. Again, these are just like light examples, but taking this to a place of where we are right now in the world with human rights issues of race that we're having in our country. We are in a place right now where we are heavily looking at the history of this nation and the systemic racism that has not just started since, you know, the end of slavery, but really started with the establishment of this land. And statues and monuments are coming down because we've been worshiping people that may have done some good work for America, but were very well-known racists that harmed a lot of people and did a lot of really bad things. You know, we have to stop being nice and putting this red, white, and blue stamp on things and owning our history. Owning our history and owning all of it. And there goes Paula again, cleaning herself. I'm sorry. But, you know, we have to get truthful and we have to get real about our past. And we have to own it and own all of it so that we can say, you know what, yeah, these things happen. This is who this person was. And we need to be honest. We need to start being honest and truthful about our American history and what is being taught in classrooms. And we need to make sure that those curriculums are clear and straight across the U.S., not just on a state-by-state basis. I grew up in the North and I currently live in the South, and it's a very different ballgame when it comes to, I am so sorry, Paula. Anyway, sorry about that. But it's a very different ballgame as to what children are being taught in the classroom, and these children grow up to become adults, and then we go, how did this happen? Because we're learning a history that just simply is not correct. And the truth of history cannot contradict what we learn in 1 month of Black History Month, within 1 month of Women's History Month. It needs to just be history, period. We need to start owning and getting truthful about our stuff. And when you can get real and you can get truthful, you can start to heal. And that's an amazing, amazing thing. So this brings us to our week 1 activity, our questions for exploration at the end of Satya. And there is a quote here from Gandhi, which I'm going to share. I know that in embarking on nonviolence, I shall be running what might be termed a mad risk. But the victories of truth have never been won without risks. Would you much rather take a risk of someone maybe not liking you because you were honest with them and truthful, knowing that you could walk away with the situation with them saying, you know, I might not like what he or she had to say, but at least I can say that person didn't lie to me or didn't falsely misrepresent themselves, which people seemingly do all the time these days, but just being honest about that reality. So week 1 activity is, this week observe the difference between nice and real. Notice situations where you were nice. What did this experience invoke in you? What were the results? Notice situations where you were real. What did this experience invoke in you? What were the results? From whom or what did you seek approval? Does this affect whether you act from your niceness or your realness? And I will tell you this, if you are someone that you don't love the people that you have around you, or you have a group of people but you're just like, I don't feel like this is my tribe, or they're just those people that you just don't feel like you can be honest and real around, then you probably just haven't found your tribe. And when you start to do this, and that's okay, because this is This is a process, but the more truthful you are and the more you step into your sense of self, those people are going to just automatically be attracted to you, and they're just going to start coming around you. People that aren't meant to be there are going to simply fall away, because your energy is going to change and your light is going to change, because you're coming into who you are. You're being truthful about who you are. We all know those people. Oh sure, yeah, we can meet out for lunch, okay, and then you go, you meet with them, you feel like you're putting a mask on, you're putting your nice mask on, and you get back out to your car and you're just exhausted. You're like, I feel like I'm playing this part, I'm not energized, why am I meeting up with this person right now? And you'll start to just tell the truth, and you know what, maybe I don't want to keep meeting up with this person, or kind of extending the energy. So just a couple of things to think about. But that's it for this video. I think it's a good place to stop. And if you haven't taken a moment today to thank God just for being alive, please take a moment to do so now. Love you. Be well.